Hi, thanks for joining us on today's episode of 20 Somethings. I'm Tico,
And I'm Imani.
and we're just a couple of 20 somethings who are still trying to figure out how to manage our mental health one existential crisis at a time. If we're not spiraling out of control over the most minor inconvenience, we're overthinking what we coulda, shoulda, woulda done at any given moment in time, or just generally questioning our entire life's purpose. In this episode, I want us to unpack all the things that come with being mentally ill in your 20s: stress, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and of course, pretending like we've got it all together when we're just trying to keep it all from falling apart. So grab a snack, take a deep breath, or two, or three, or five, and let's dive into today's chat. It's going to get real, but hopefully in a way that makes you laugh and feel a little less alone. So, before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. Neither Imani nor I are licensed therapists. So, while we're full of opinions, advice, and unsolicited life tips, please don't take our word as professional guidance. We're just trying to figure out life, mental health, and whether or not we should finally cancel that godforsaken Netflix subscription. So, if you're looking for a deep dive into therapy techniques, we recommend Googling it, right, Imani?
Exactly.
Unless, of course, you're in the mood for a good laugh and some questionable advice, proceed with caution. You've been warned. Ciao. Anyway, so mental health isn't just about coping with illness, it's about understanding ourselves better and learning how to take care of our minds, just like we do with our bodies. So, whether you're facing anxiety, battling depression, or just trying to understand the ups and downs of everyday life, this episode is for you. So, I just want to start off by being as transparent as possible. So, I haven't been like professionally diagnosed or anything, but I've always identified with seven out of the nine qualifying symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Imani, you know what that is?
Yeah, BPD.
Yeah, like what you know about it?
Granted, I haven't done much reading on it. I, from the little reading that I have done, I think it has to do with, you know, just your mood swings
Real.
and how you interact with the world
Hmm.
and how those mood swings affect how you present,
Hmm.
not only to the world, but to self. So
Mm.
it's trying to manage the ups and the downs of your brain while dealing with a neurotypical world.
Clock me, sis. Clock me, clock me, clock me. So definitely intense mood swings, difficult to maintain in relationships. Because one thing about me, I will burn a bridge, child. I'll burn a bridge.
Oh
Feel
Lord.
past the match, or just feeling like empty or disconnected from myself. And I also deal with like derealization and depersonalization. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Go
So you're
on.
just not here.
Literally, like floating in the crowds. Like, honestly, I don't even feel real most of the time. Like, sometimes I feel like a ghost. Or I'm just like
Hmm.
not even sure I exist. Like, honestly, most days I'm just like floating around. I don't even feel like a person at all. Um,
So what do you do to tap back into self?
Spiral. Um, Outside of that, to be honest, like I like to get in touch with things that remind me of me. Like getting creative and just being in the zone and making music, for example, or listening to music or painting
Hmm.
or writing, just being creative. And also just traveling. Like I find that when I'm like in motion, it helps me to like
Hmm.
stay present for some reason. But when I'm still, that's
Because
when I'm
everything else
like,
is moving around you.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, like if I'm on a bus or if I'm in a taxi, I'm able to focus on everything else around me as opposed to myself, which is hard to kind of like focus on when you don't even feel real. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, on top of that, like don't even get me started on social anxiety. Going to parties, huge no. being out in public, instant stress. You can relate to that,
Uh,
right?
oh, in this day and age, it's horrible.
Like, honestly, like, I don't want to be perceived. Like, don't perceive me. I'm just a concept. Like, I also have this,
Not a concept.
like, I'm just a vibe. Like, I'm just a vibe. Like, let's just roll with it, okay? I also have this weird thing where I'm convinced that everyone secretly hates my guts. Like, all the time. Like I'm convinced everybody hates me. I don't know why. It's probably like, just like low self-esteem. I don't know. But it's like my brain's favorite hobby to assume like
Hmm.
I'm doing everything wrong or worse, I am everything wrong. And it bums me out, like seriously, to the point where like I get depressed when I think about it. But when I
Yeah.
really think about it, my depression is more circumstantial than it is chemical. Because when I'm not
Mm.
being criticized for literally everything I do by the people around me, or when I'm not surrounded by people who literally suck the life out of me, I'm like the human equivalent of a walking confetti cannon. Like just a
That is
bubbly,
true.
thank you, like just a bubbly, buoyant burst of energy. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like it's the environment that makes me feel this way. Like Jamaica,
Hmm.
sad to say it, is depressing, and Jamaica makes me depressed. But maybe it's not depression. Maybe it's just I need to get the fuck out of here itis. Maybe it's just and
Oh,
maybe I just need better company syndrome. You know what I mean? Um, but even though I'm sharing all of this, I don't want to make light of such a serious topic because mental health struggles are real. They are debilitating, and many people are fighting battles every single day. Some we don't even know. So, if any of this resonates with you, please know, of course, you're not alone. I'm sure Imani can resonate and relate to things that I'm sharing as well, and I'm going to let them discuss everything that they've experienced. But if you're listening and you need support, don't hesitate to reach out to a professional. We're all just doing our best here. So,
I would
without,
also suggest reaching
Mhm,
out to your friends.
yes, thank you for pointing that out. Like, it's so important to have a support system and like having a community. But Imani, at some point, I'd like you to like expound upon that and what you would recommend for people who feel like they don't have people they can reach out to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I I think for me, I would suggest if you don't have a physical community, try and find an online community.
mhm.
I
That's
know
so
in this day and age, everybody online is slightly creepy and they're like, stranger danger.
true as well. Yeah, they're unhinged, really, truly unhinged. But I feel like in the same vein, like they are that way because they don't have people in real life that they can talk to. You know what I mean? Like being online
Yeah.
kind of gives them that I don't know, just this sense of oh I can say the most insane thing and nobody can say anything about it because I am just an anonymous avatar. What are you gonna do about it? But then they end up getting doxxed and we know everything about them. So I don't
Oh,
know. But of course, I also want to give Imani an opportunity to wax poetic. So, Imani, let's talk about the stigma around mental health. Like,
mhm,
let's break down the barriers that people have with seeking help. Let's talk about how society views mental illness. And if you
mhm.
mind, let's just like, can you walk me through your experience with mental health and or mental illness? So take it away. That was a lot.
Sure.
I hope you remember. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I did. I did.
Mm,
Sure. For me, as Tika said, he is not officially diagnosed with anything,
mhm,
and I'm also in that boat,
mhm,
mainly because, especially in Jamaica, the process of diagnosis is quite pricey,
Speak on it.
especially if you are to go through the process of seeing a psychiatrist, getting a diagnosis, and then getting on medication, if that's the option that you choose.
Mhm,
So for me, from past therapy sessions, I would say I fall into the ADHD, anxiety, depression bracket. There might be some autism spectrum there, but we're gonna leave that alone. We're gonna leave that to Jesus for right now. So
Mm,
I deal with a lot of social triggers for my anxiety,
mhm. Such as?
public transportation being the main one. I I leave my body in those situations.
Mm, dissociate.
I Not only that, I've literally almost passed out from an anxiety attack on public
Really?
transportation.
Really?
It's really bad.
Oh no. Oh no.
And it's kind of hard to describe because in the process, you're just slowly feeling your body just leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, I can't breathe. There's too many people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pass out. But then you have to try and remember, oh, do deep breathing and
Mm.
remember to do butterfly tap so you get back in touch with your body.
What
Baby
are
girl, that's not
butterfly
helping.
what are butterfly taps?
Butterfly taps are a technique that I stumbled upon on Pinterest
Mm.
first.
I love
And
Pinterest.
then
Oh my God.
she's that girl.
Period. But continue, not to stray.
And then I did a little deep dive on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a technique where you cross your hands across your chest
Mm-hmm.
in an X formation and you just tap your shoulders. And in the process of doing that, it kind of just grounds you. It
Mm.
brings you back to your body.
Oh, it's a grounding
It,
technique.
yes, it is.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
So, in the process of doing that, while trying to remember that my lungs work,
Mm-hmm.
it's a no go.
Right.
On
So
the other hand, go ahead.
question, does this happen like when you're around people you don't know? Like, does it happen when you're like, for instance, like, does it happen if you're in a quote unquote safe space? Like, you're on, for example, or in a public transport and
Hmm.
you're with friends or you're with someone who you trust. Like, do you experience that
Hmm.
sense of anxiety or is it around complete strangers?
It's both, actually.
Hmm, okay.
So, I could be completely fine one half of the journey,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second half, something just switches.
Ooh.
And like I take note of the fact that there are so many people around me
Mhm.
and I'm in like a moving thing that could kill me.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, oh my God,
And just
what
to
the
confirm,
hell?
you're sure it's not like your blood sugar dropping or anything. Like you're not like you
Oh
don't
no,
right. It's not that you're yearning for like a Snickers or a Milky Way. Like it's
no
different.
babes.
Okay. That sounds
No, I've
scary
had
though,
this,
not gonna lie.
it is. I've had this conversation with a past therapist of mine, and we
Hmm.
discovered that it's a trigger for me because we've
Okay.
talked at length about it and the process of what I go through in that space,
Hmm.
and all the symptoms and how it's a gradual progression.
Hmm.
And she's like, yeah, that's a trigger.
Mm.
So we need to
So
figure out how to work with that.
So prior to your therapist, articulating this, like it never occurred to you that this could have been like a trauma response or something triggering.
Generally, no.
Hmm.
I thought I just hated public transportation, which I do.
They are filthy. They're disgusting, actually, but
They're
also kind of fun.
horrendous.
Kind of fun.
True, you get some good jokes.
They do. Like, one thing that I do hate, like when the buses are crowded and like you can barely have like room to breathe, you can, which does also trigger anxiety when it's just like you're packed like sardines on the bus and it's just like, give me some space. But you can't because you have to get from point A to point B, and so does everyone. So I can
Yeah.
understand how that can be nerve-wracking for sure. Um, but yeah, thanks for sharing that experience that you have like traveling. Like that's actually scary. Like have you been on a plane? Like have you experienced anything like that when flying abroad, for example?
I have not touched on that mighty jet of a plane as yet.
You should.
God
I
willing,
love
soon.
it. Yes, we're manifesting, we're speaking it into being. Like,
However, I
mm,
think before I do that, I would have to possibly go back to my therapist
okay, right.
because the thought of being in an enclosed space
For hours.
so high up in the sky for a prolonged period of time
Right.
is already stressing me out.
And you want to know what's funny? Like I don't like I can see how that would be like awful for a lot of people. But for me it's like being I don't know, 35,000 feet in the air on a plane and looking out through the window because I tend to get the window seats because it calms me. But it
Hmm.
also like puts things into perspective for me, where it's like it doesn't matter what you're worried about or what you're like hyper fixating on. When you look out of a window of a plane, all of your problems just disappear. At least, well, they don't disappear, but they're pale in comparison. You just feel so small, but not in like a small, insignificant way, but more so like there's so much out there that's bigger than what I'm experiencing right now. So it's also in a way a grounding like experience for me
Hmm.
where I'm not so in my head about things. Granted, the plane could plummet out of the sky and like we all could die, but
Right.
like I try not to think about that. I really do. But I really want you to travel though. Like I feel like traveling and just being in different environments, like you learn so much about yourself. But you're saying something. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in that process, I think I might need to
Walk
test
with,
out medication
right.
so that
Walk with a stress ball or something so you can like play with
not even a stress ball. Get me Zoloft,
it.
something, a Xanax,
Xanax, yes.
bellow me out, please.
Some edibles, some marijuana, like
No,
Mary Jane
I've been
Holland.
sober
Oh, right.
for almost
Love,
2 years.
love that journey
So
for you. Love that journey for you. I'm very proud, actually. Good job. Keep on it.
thank
Of
you.
course. How about the stigma around mental health? Why do you think so many people are afraid to admit, hey, I'm having a hard time, or hey, I'm experiencing this issue? Why does society look at people with mental illness as broken, as damaged, as not human?
I think,
Serious
especially
thoughts?
for the Jamaican society, we have a tendency
Hmm.
to always present our best foot forward, even
Right.
when, if you look behind us, the house is burning down,
Hmm.
the baby's on the floor crying,
Hmm.
the pot is on fire, but
Chaos.
to the outside world,
Everything is fine.
everything is good.
Right.
And I think that is a factor in the stigma because we're not willing to acknowledge that, hey, something is not right.
Mm, right. Because
And
once again, we're afraid of being perceived a particular way.
yeah,
Mm, real.
and then when you actually be like, hey, I'm raising my hand to indicate that I don't feel right in my body,
Hmm.
you're gonna hear, go pray about it. Go
Like,
drink some ginger tea.
not that those things are also valuable methods, but therapy and clinical psychology are also helpful. You know what I mean? Like both of them can coexist at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Jamaican people don't see it like that. It's one
Right.
or the other.
Which is disappointing because when you think about all the people who are like actually navigating society completely on edge and like just I don't know, just frazzled in every sense of the word, but they're making it seem as if they're okay. And it's like, obviously, you're not okay. Like, you're drinking all the time, you're smoking weed all the time, you're hypersexual, you're hooking up with everybody. Like, something, you're running away from something. There's something you're not facing. And it's like, people are scared. People are scared to like tap into that vulnerable um sense of uncertainty with what's going on with them
Hmm.
when they don't have the answers. And it's like, it is very exposing. Like, it does make you feel naked to admit, I need help. And especially when you're in a society that doesn't encourage you to open up you're supposed to swallow your feelings. You're supposed to numb yourself. You're supposed to like, I don't know,
Hmm.
ignore whatever you're going through and keep it pushing, you know? So
Yeah.
so I do empathize with people who, I don't know, are really going through it because haven't we all been there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I recently saw a TikTok of a young lady
Hmm.
disclosing that she does not feel like her mental health is at a great place
Right.
and she would like to get some mental health assistance,
Hmm.
specifically within the local clinic
Hmm.
avenue,
Hmm.
not going private because, to be quite honest, the cost of private therapy sessions or psychology visits range anywhere between 10,000 to I believe 15,000 per
Jamaican
visit.
dollars. That's crazy.
Yes.
It's
And if you're
crazy.
going to a therapist every week, that's 10 grand for how many weeks are in that month?
And who knows if insurance even covers that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So her process, she was detailing it on TikTok.
Hmm.
And in her detailing this runaround that she had to go through, it showed even more that we as a society are not prepared in a
Right.
certain regard to deal with
Hmm.
mental health issues.
Right. We lack the resources or even the wherewithal to even have conversations about certain topics. You know what I mean? Like, we have a
I
problem.
don't I don't think it's the resources that we lack.
Mm,
I think it's the gatekeepers or middle people that we have to interact with.
that's a very
Because
good point.
there are people and doctors and communities who are like, we're here willing to help.
Hmm.
But if you go to your local clinic or your community health center, you're
Hmm.
being told you need to go to that hospital. You
Right.
go to that hospital, and then you're being told you need to go back to your health center because
Right.
they need to give you a letter. And then
Right.
it's the same process that the young lady was detailing. She was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
And if she didn't make a public plea on TikTok, then she would still be in this back and forth.
Or God forbid she would have made the decision to end her life because some people feel so helpless and hopeless that they feel as if there's no other option or a solution than to, commit suicide or kill themselves, which is devastating on so many different levels, you know what I mean? But you do
Yeah.
make a very good point because I remember when I was in college and I had this realization like, Tika, you need help. Why is it that like you're always like breaking up with all your boyfriends? Why is it that you're always cutting off all of your friends? Why is it that you're always like spiraling out of control? Like you are a mess. So I was like, let me go to the clinic. Let me like have like a session with the school psychologist or whatever. And so I made an appointment and we had our first meeting. Mind you, I was crushing on old guy the whole time because he was like literally
Oh
my
Lord.
like he had this big ass belly, which is oh my god, like one of my kryptonite is big bellies. Like if you have a big belly, like please like squish me, like suffocate me. Like, you know what I mean? Like something about a dad bod with a big belly. Anyway, besides that, like he had me do this exercise where he wanted me to make a Word document, like one page, just tracking my journey, I guess from birth to where I was, and like explaining like my story, so to speak. So he could like have a better idea of what was going on. Because you can't understand what's happening in the present without reflecting on the past.
Hmm.
So me being me, I started that. But instead of one page, I submitted like several pages, unpacking my trauma, just dumping everything. And it's like, oh my God, what the hell? So anyway, I emailed him the document as requested. And like the next session, he said to me, sorry, Tika, but we'll have to end our session. Um, he said something to the effect of like he didn't think he was equipped to deal with my issues. And I was just like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, cool. Um, so we had to like end it there, and then he asked me how I felt. And in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, how you think I fucking feel? Like you had me like be vulnerable and open up, and then you're basically dumping because I'm too much. Fuck you. But I was like, oh, fine. I'm fine. Thank you for your time. It's been lit. And here's my number if you want to keep in touch. But since then, I haven't really had therapy before after that. And honestly, it's to my detriment because I think a therapist would be beneficial to me, myself, and I. But
Mhm.
as we discussed, therapy is expensive. So I'll just journal and utilize ChatGPT on occasion. Like whenever I'm having like a moment, I like to use ChatGPT. And I know that we don't really trust AI because what are they doing with our information? But that's the
Right?
beside. Like I was just like ask ChatGPT, ChatGPT, help me here. And it helps. It really does. So there are tools out there. But I'm glad that you mentioned social TikTok because I am interested in the impact that social media has on mental health. Because for me, I know that like if I'm online too much, doom scrolling, like I'll feel awful. Like especially when I'm
Mhm.
like on Instagram and I'm just like looking at my friends' stories. And of course everything is fun and like I'm like watching them live their best lives and I'm like, you go girl, you go boy, you go they them. But it's just something about FOMO or feeling, I don't know, like you're not doing enough. You're not, living life as much as you could. You're just scrolling. It's just like it gets to
Mhm.
you. And it's hard not to compare yourself to your peers. So I do get in my head about that. And it of course that affects my self-esteem and my anxiety and all of that. So two questions. Impact
Mhm.
of social media on mental health. What do you think about that? How do you limit your screen time? And how do you, oh no, that's two questions. Yeah, go answer those two, please.
Before I answer your questions, I wanted to say, even though the therapist kind of did you bad,
Mm,
uh, kudos to him for stating upfront that, hey, this
it's
is
too
too much
much.
for
Right.
me.
I agree.
I wish he would have given you a referral to somebody that could possibly help,
I know.
but
It's life. You
we
know them.
give him props where he can receive props.
I know. Thank you, Dr. Bleep. Like I won't won't spill your tea. But yeah, he was so real for that. All right. You were saying?
In regards to your question, how do I limit my screen time?
Yes.
I put timers on specific apps
Mm-hmm.
because I will scroll and scroll until the sun is coming back up, and that's not good.
Not at all.
So currently, I have like a 2.5 hour timer on like
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, I think Instagram and Twitter.
That's so responsible. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I I have to set my little boundaries because I know if I do not,
Mm-hmm.
it will not be a great end result.
Very,
Uh-uh.
very, very responsible of you, actually. And I think a lot of people would benefit from implementing that. And how do you feel social media impacts people's mental health, especially now in these trying times?
I think on one hand, as you stated, it affects your mental health because you start comparing yourself to people and
Hmm.
you're seeing all the lies that everybody's posting on social media. Because let's be honest, we're all lying on Instagram.
How dare
We're
you?
all
I'm so
doing
honest.
it.
I'm so authentic. What do you mean? I know. Like,
We're all presenting the best versions of
of
ourselves
course,
on
nobody
Instagram.
nobody comes online and tells everybody I'm having a
If
bad day.
you want to
Nobody.
know how people really are feeling, check their Twitter.
Real sorry. Although we don't use Twitter anymore. Fuck you know who. He who shall not be
Ugh,
named. We
true.
moved on to greener pastures. Child. Anyway, so.
But on the other hand, I think it's working to normalize it because
Hmm.
people are speaking more honestly about the fact that, hey, my
Having
head
a rough
is
time.
not here.
Right, right,
I
for
need a
sure,
break. This is too much.
for sure. And how do you think, because you've discussed some earlier, like, butterfly technique, but what are some tips, self-care practices, and ways to cope with stress and anxiety and depression that you would recommend to people who are struggling with mental health issues? What are some healthy habits that you can
Hmm.
recommend that will improve their mental well-being? Some strategies that, they can use to manage their everyday anxieties.
Well, as we said at the top of the podcast, we're not clinical professionals. So
Thank
please
you.
take this with a
With
grain
a grain of
of
salt.
salt and the
Period.
finest grain of salt,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm a big journaling person.
Real.
I
So,
like journaling.
yes, so do I.
I also, I'm now in the process of getting back in touch with activities that I did as a kid
Mm-hmm.
that sparked joy. Marie
Mm-hmm.
Kondo, the brain.
Right. Healing your
Also,
inner child, so to speak.
yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Also, even though I hate it, going outside,
Touching grass, touching grass.
touching
It
physical grass.
physical grass, like it really does help, not gonna lie. Honestly, truly. And of course, having a
Truly.
support system, as you mentioned, like because sometimes like you might be going through it, it's just good to yap and vent with your best friends. It's just nice to have like a support system, I think. As you mentioned, if you don't have
Yes.
one in real life, there's always online. Because I remember like I had friends on like Tumblr. You remember Tumblr?
Hmm.
Rest in peace. Like I had so
She's
many
still
group.
active. Don't do
Well,
her.
true, let me put some respect on her name. But yeah, Tumblr was like my diary back in the day. Now I'm on Reddit. Like to be honest, like I'm never not on Reddit. But back in the day, Tumblr was my vibe. But yeah.
Yeah, to piggyback off your thing of like community,
Mm-hmm.
I can say with 1,000% honesty and my whole chest, if
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't for my community and my chosen
Mm-hmm.
family, I
Mm.
would not be here today. So
Shout out
please,
to the LGBTQ community, or or I'm having a burn part. Help, or good
to your
Julies.
friends, your
Yes,
family,
yes.
whatever category you want to put these people in, for me, those are my friends.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for them, I would not be here today. So
I
please,
agree.
if you can rely on your friends,
Mm-hmm.
please let them know that something is wrong. My friends have yelled at me for not telling them that something is wrong. So
Right.
please rely on your friends. I did not say put all of your weight on them.
Don't
No,
trauma, don't know. None of that.
don't do it without consent.
Right. There we go.
But at
Consent is
least
important.
send a message in the group chat. Hey guys, I'm not doing so well. I'm just asking for you to check in on me throughout the
Exactly.
day. Simple things
Communication is
like
key.
that will help you to feel better. It's gonna take long. I'm still on my journey,
Right.
and we're gonna be on this journey for the rest of our lives.
I love that.
But
I love that.
slowly
That's
but
the
surely,
mhm.
we're gonna get there.
Period. And so we have like less than 3 minutes left before we have to end the episode. But of course, Imani, I want to thank you for helping me have this deep, insightful conversation about, mental health and like how people can look for insight and support from their peers. But
You're most
bef-
welcome.
of course, but before we go, like I just want to know if you have any, you know, closing thoughts on, this issue of mental health. Any advice? I know that we're not giving the children any advice, but if you could, talk to your younger self about anything, like what would you say to them particularly about mental health?
You're not weird or different.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with how your brain feels. You just
Hmm.
operate on a different frequency, and that's okay.
Ooh, that is a word. That is a word. Like, wow. Wow. Are you trying to make me tear up? How dare you, first of all? First of all. But that's so beautiful. Like, and I'm sure like your younger self would be proud of you right now and how far you've come, how much you've grown. You just putting in the work and taking, you know, steps to actually improve your life, your quality of life. And I'm so proud of you. Like, we've known each other
Thank you,
since high
friend.
school and just like observing
Right?
like how like it's crazy like how much time has passed, but it's like just witnessing your growth over the years and how much you've evolved. You're an inspiration, truly. And
Oh,
I
thank
just want
you. Now you want me to cry. Hello?
and like I just can't wait to see you like flourish and like truly like take it to the next level. Like the year is almost finished and like 2025 is going to be the year. Like we're manifesting for sure. For sure.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. I'm putting that on period.
That's right.
Yeah. So of course, I just want to thank you again for sharing, and I want to thank our listeners today for taking the time out to, hold space for us. um, Thanks for, allowing us to vent our experiences with mental health. And of course, there's no shame in asking for help if you're struggling. And you can always DM me if you're going through it. Not just you, Imani, but our listeners as well. Like if you're going through it, just hit me up and I'll be more than happy to, walk you through. But of course, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in on today's episode of 20 Somethings, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my God, that was so good. It was so good.